Hello, welcome to the Step Stories podcast. I hope everyone who celebrates it had a nice Father's Day. My sister sent me some funny throwback pictures and videos of my dad this weekend, and it's just so weird. He's been gone a while. Like, it's so weird to see that and feel like he's still, just across the country. But I guess that's what love and connection does. And my guest today, Debbie Loeffler, is it Loeffler? You just told me, and now I'm saying it wrong.
Loeffler, yes.
Loeffler is here today to talk about love and connection. So hi, Debbie.
Hi,
Hi.
Robin. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here and taking the time to do
Thanks
this.
for having me.
How was your Father's Day?
It was nice. We always forget holidays here.
Oh,
It's like a thing in my house. We always forget our anniversary and Father's Day and Mother's Day. And I don't know. It's just I feel like we have like John and I always laugh that we forget our anniversary every year. Somebody will always remind us that it's our anniversary. And I'm like, oh my God, 24 years. And we never remember them. But I think it's kind of good that it feels just like so nice. I don't need a holiday to remind me. So he's excited. He's going to see his kids all summer. They're all going to be swarming in from all over the country soon. So we're all looking forward.
oh, good. Well, we're going to talk all about that. And I just want to tell the listeners who you are and how I know you. We're actually connected through a mutual friend who I've known since childhood, and you have known her for years too now, but first met her, I think, at a party through a mutual friend. But before that, you had a connection because you were both in the modeling industry,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you just talk about, we don't have to talk about our friend so much, even though we both love her, but
We love her.
well, she suggested you should be on the show because you are an example of a stepmother who has a great relationship with your stepkids. But before we go into that whole story, we just want to know a little bit about you and who you are and your background. So can you share a little bit?
Sure. So, this mutual friend of both of ours and I had so many connections without ever meeting each other for many, many years. Everywhere I went when I was living in Paris, people were asking me if I knew her. And simultaneously, everywhere she went, people were asking her if she knew me. And many years went by and we never met. It was like sliding doors. We just never met each other. And then we were at a party in St. Bart's, and somebody said, I want you guys to meet, not knowing anything. And we looked at each other and said, oh my gosh, like you're the person that everybody's asked me about for years. And she said the same. And we have become super close over the course of our 30 something year friendship. And so she's known me through all my iterations. Like she was married early and young, and I wasn't. So she went through all my single dating lifetime with me in all its iterations. And then she saw what I saw when I met my husband, and he had two young kids when I met him, and I never wanted to have kids. And but I'm so happy I have stepchildren. I never really wanted stepchildren either, to be honest. I was like, oof, that's kind of the deal killer. I was dating somebody that had no kids and living in Los Angeles at the time. And I thought it was perfect. He was handsome and smart and nice and had no kids and hadn't been divorced. And like on paper, he was amazing. And then I met John, and he was going through a divorce and had two kids. And I just was never going to ever look back. I was done. I was cooked, as they say. My goose was cooked. I was so in love. And then, of course, scared to meet my stepchildren the first time, because I think, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So you have to do it right from the beginning. Kids can be a tough audience.
They can. And I actually want to turn the clock backwards before we talk about that, because that's going to be the main thing we talk about is are those kids and how that all developed. But I kind of want to go back to, because I know you've got your own childhood story that has influenced how you are as a stepmother. And so I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about, just because it's fun and it's unique, how you got into the modeling world and your career a bit too. So um, let's talk about your childhood a little bit, if that's okay. And
Sure.
I know you had a wonderful stepfather, but tell us a little bit about that and just
Yeah.
your own
So my
family.
parents got divorced, and I was just before I was turning 11. And my mom was really young mom. So my mom had me when she was 19. So I look back and I always think, God, how did I she had 3 kids and she was like 30 years old at the time, and she was divorced, and she was adorable. She is from Denmark. She came to this country to be a nanny, and so she had a lot of suitors and nice guys, and they were, coming by and always, oh, let's go out for ice cream, or I brought you some toys, or thought we'd go to the take you to the arcade or a movie, or trying to suck up to my sister and I more because we were older. My brother was a baby, and my sister and I were always like, oof, I didn't like the fact that anybody was sucking up to us when we were 9 and 11 or whatever we were. Yeah, 9 and 11. It just felt creepy and weird. And so the one guy that came over to take my mom on a date that didn't pay any attention to us, that was the one we liked. We were like, what's up with him? Why doesn't he talk to us? Does he not like us? Does he not like kids? And it wasn't that he was mean or anything. He just let us come to him. And I look back on that dynamic that he created, and it was so unique. He didn't do anything to be calculating. He just was being him. And he thought, I don't know if I'm going to like this lady. I don't know if I'm going to like her kids. I'm not going to make a big, huge effort. There's plenty of fish in the sea for an eligible bachelor. And he was fine. He wasn't mean to us, but the first time he came over and he really just said hello, and that was it. He left, and my sister and I were kind of like, well, that was weird. And then the next time he picked my mom up for a date, we were like, hi, do you remember me? And he's like, oh yeah, which one are you? And he played it very cool. But for many visits like that. And so by, I think, the fourth date he came to pick my mom up, I was doing a dance and my sister was playing the piano. We were doing a whole show that we wanted him to see. We were like, look at us. We're so great. You're going to love us. So he really let us come to him. And I thought that that was such a smart way to play it. I
Do you
think kids
think
don't.
did he do that intentionally, do you think, or that's just was his
I
personality?
think it's just his personality. He's a very he had strong character, a big sense of self, and a lot of confidence. And like he didn't feel like he needed to, befriend a 9 and 11-year-old. Like he was thinking, whatever. So anyway, needless to say, he was a great stepfather. We were all very, very close. He passed away last year, but I learned a lot from him about being a step parent. I think he was great, actually. He taught us a lot of nice things in life, took us everywhere, included us in everything. And he had 2 kids almost exactly the same age as my sister and I, almost the same age as her and me. And my brother was like trailing up the rear with much younger than the 4 of us girls. We all became very close.
Did you all live together?
My stepsister spent a lot of time with us. I think that they weren't so inclined to spend a lot of time with him when he was single, just because they were young girls and they wanted to be with their mom. But then when my mom and my stepfather got married, I think Alden and Ashley felt like much more comfortable, being with us for vacations. And my mom was an amazing housekeeper and a cook and, organized. And we did a lot of things together as a family. It's hard being a single dad. I mean, I look at so many guys I know that have gotten divorced and they're just used to having somebody else run the show and, a wife to make plans and stuff. And then these guys work all week. And then on the weekends, they have, 2 kids and they don't really know what to do a lot of the time. So I
Mhm.
think it was really nice when my stepsisters would come visit. That was a lot more organized, kind of fun, thanks to my mom. So everybody pulled their weight.
So your mom was good with your stepsisters?
Yeah, she
Oh,
was.
good.
hmm
Good. And where was your dad? Was he still around
So
or
he was still around and he got remarried and married a nice lady. And my mom and him weren't so, mm, they didn't have such a good situation. I didn't want it to be like that in my life when I grew up. I was like, really did not want to have that kind of bad blood and bad feelings. And I used to feel so guilty going to my dad's house on weekends and leaving my mom alone. And I don't know, you always feel a little displaced going back and forth. I think it's kind of unfair that kids have to make those sacrifices. I feel like the parents are the ones should go back and forth. I should be able to stay in my room. You move your stuff every weekend. you know, it
there
was,
yes, I've had people on who are experts who bring up the loyalty bind, and I think that that's kids go through that. They don't
Yeah.
know they don't wanna hurt either one of them, and that puts them into a loyalty bind, so I understand that, and I can't wait to talk about some things you learned from your stepfather and how that, worked with your own stepkids, but so how did you end up getting into the modeling aspect
Oh,
of your life?
so I don't know. I think it was just, those things kind of happened, and I just, a modeling agent saw me in New York and said I was just my freshman year in college, and he said, "Oh, believe it or not," he said at the time, "if you gain 10 pounds, you could be a model." That's how skinny I was in college.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do that for the summer in between my freshman year and my sophomore year in college," and I was like, "Ooh, this is kind of great," and it was fun, and I did it over the course of my sophomore year, and then the next summer nonstop. And I was working a lot, and then I kind of like drifted away from the whole college scene and moved to Paris and stayed there for a while. I actually went to Tokyo first for 2 weeks, and I stayed for a year and 2 months instead of 2 weeks. And then I went to Paris, and I stayed there for 4 years.
It's funny because I actually went to New York with our friend Susie when she signed with Eileen Ford. I was in college my freshman year in Boston, and I came for the weekend and got to be there and experience that excitement of her doing that. And then I was studying abroad in Paris, and I was just a student, not exciting like her, but she was in Paris then, and I got to hang out with her and experience
Ride those
the
coattails. How
glamorous
fun,
life.
right?
What? Oh,
It was
yeah, the
so
models living in
fun. Are you
Paris had a
kidding?
different life than
Yeah,
us
the '80s in
students.
Paris, it was pretty great.
It was pretty great and pretty fun. So anyway, I got a glimpse of that world a bit too. So, um, all right. Well, let's talk about you as a stepmother and tell me about your husband. How'd you meet and how did all that go?
So, I was dating a guy living in Los Angeles, and, I don't know, we got along, but, there was, like, no real amazing chemistry, and couldn't quite we both liked each other so much. Like I said, he was the guy on paper that was, like, perfect. He ticked every box. He was just a fantastic guy. And, anyway, we, uh, broke up, and then, called me at, like, about 2 weeks after we broke up, and he said, I have a friend of mine coming out to LA who I think you would really like. I'm gonna want you to meet him." And he started telling me about John, and I said, "Wait, I think I know him from when I lived in New York. Is it John Loeffler?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh my God, I thought he was like married and had kids." And he says, "Well, he's getting divorced and he does have kids, and now he's single." So I went on a date with John, and I was, like I said earlier in this podcast, that was definitely clear to me after 5 minutes of the date. I thought, this is the guy. This is the perfect guy for me. And I think that I was right. So 24 years married, 26 years together, and he had kids at the time. They were like around between 5 and 6, his daughter was, and around 10 or 11 was his son, was 11, I
Mhm.
think. So, I was very sensitive because I thought, "Oh, his son is about the same age I was when my mom and dad got divorced." So um, I really tried to see it from his perspective. I thought, a 5 or 6 year old little girl, I'm going to be fine with that. That seems like that's not a tricky age, I mean, they're just so sweet and naive and cute, and not difficult at all. So,
Not
but I
teenagers
thought,
yet.
yeah, you're not a teenager yet, and
Yeah.
she was never a bad teenager ever. So, but her brother had a lot of he had a lot of anxiety about the divorce. Is still very close to his mom, and I think that loyalty bind that you talked about was very real for him. And I think he felt terrible coming on weekends
Mm.
to be with his dad and I. So I put off that meeting with the kids for as long as I possibly could, out of respect for the kids and the process, but also for myself, because I know that once you start being that future step parent, or girlfriend of the dad, it's hard to, once you open that book, it's hard to close it. So you can't be like, there and not there and there and not there. And I was really enjoying my relationship without the complications of kids being around, and I just wanted to really relish that part of it without jumping into like the whole like family dynamic of step parenting, because I thought if it's a real relationship, I'm going to have that, so I don't need to hurry it up.
I think that's really smart. I've heard so many stepmoms who've been on my show just talk about how tough it is because not only are you trying to have a relationship with this guy, but you've also got, or whoever, this partner, this person you've met, and you have to also be a mom all of a sudden that you weren't
Yeah.
expecting. And so I think separating them out for a little while was really smart, if
Yeah, I'm
possible.
happy I did that. I'm happy I did that, and we were, commuting. I was living in Los Angeles and he was in New York, so we were commuting and it made it a lot easier.
Mm.
And, he had the much more complicated end of it, like a girlfriend in Los Angeles, going through a divorce, 2 young kids that lived in Greenwich, commuting from New York. I mean, it was very complicated for him. And I thought, "You know what? You just do you here and get through this stage in your life the best you can. I'll be the supportive girlfriend." But when you're new to a relationship like that, it's also not my problem. Like, really, I mean, I'm sorry you're going through all that, but what can I do? You have to figure that out. I didn't want to get so involved. I didn't want to know all the gory details. I didn't need to. It didn't serve any purpose. I liked the fact that he never said anything bad about his ex-wife. He wasn't never said, "Oh, she's crazy and she's a terrible person," or this and that. No, he's just not that guy. He never did that. So there was a lot of goodwill for them when they were getting divorced. So sad. I mean, they were together, and she was especially young when they got married. So, people make mistakes, but they got 2 great kids out of it. So it worked out just fine in the end. I think everybody's lived happily ever after. And my stepkids were not really part of my relationship for a while when I was with John. I met them in passing at like some summer party for literally 2 minutes the first year we were dating, and then didn't see them again for maybe a year at
Oh,
least.
wow.
Yeah.
Did they know you were their dad's girlfriend when you met him in passing like that?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh,
No.
interesting.
I said I didn't even want them to look at me like with any kind of anything. Just I wanted to
Yeah.
just have be a clear lens and just say hi, and oh, did you get an ice cream or whatever it was that we were a bunch of people around, and it was easy and uh simple, uncomplicated first introduction. And then about a year later, my husband had them for spring break and he rented a house in St. Bart's. And we went down. He said, "I'm so excited for you to spend time with the kids. And they're going to be down there for 2 weeks." And I said, "I'm excited too. And I look forward to it, but I will not be staying at the house you rented." I just felt that that was wildly inappropriate. I thought,
Mm.
first time they're going to hang out with me and meet me. And the dad's girlfriend is also one of the first vacations with their dad since their parents are divorced on their own. And like, they don't need me stepping on their space. So I stayed at a hotel down the road and made myself kind of scarce. I did what my stepfather did. And I would rather have the kids ask, "Where's Debbie?" rather than, "Ugh, is Debbie coming to dinner tonight too?" I didn't want to be raining on their parade with their dad.
Well, so it sounds like your stepfather and that approach he had is exactly what you did. And so it was really successful for you with your stepdad. And was that the right approach for you with these kids?
Definitely. I think so. I think that they would tell you the same thing. I wasn't like pressuring. I never wanted to have kids. So I wasn't trying to fill some void in my life and, make somebody else's kids my kids. I really never wanted to have my own kids. So um I was also dealing with, oh, like, really, I'm going to have kids now. Like, do I really even like this idea that much? Because given the choice at the time, I would have definitely picked no kids. Now, looking back, I think that would have been such a horrible choice, like the saddest possible choice, because my life has been just so great with them. And we are all, tight and friendly. And I'm so proud of them as people. And I think everybody serves a purpose in this dynamic that we have. And I was never trying to be their mom. I just never was. So really stayed away from that.
Well, do you feel that you were able to do that more because the kids weren't with you all the time? I feel
Totally.
like for yes, some stepmothers who have the kids a lot, they are the stepmothers and they know, but they're also having to take on a mom role. They're
Yeah.
having to take the kids to all the practices and games and classes, whatever it is, and they are being a mom. And I think that they have that conflict a lot of times with the kid's biological mom. Were you having to do that sort of thing, or was it easier for you to stay a friend? I'm not your mom, I'm your dad's wife kind of a thing because you weren't having to do so much of that, or what was your situation?
Yeah, I think that, well, John's ex-wife, the mother of the kids, is a great mom. And so, I wasn't dealing with anybody who was incapable or mean or mean-spirited. Like, she was a completely capable, great mom. And John is like a great dad. And so, like, do they need another person in their life? No, like in that capacity, they didn't. I think there are instances, of course, when, people are marrying somebody who's a widow or, a person who's got, addiction issues or whatever. But I was kind of stepping into a really nice situation. That being said, my stepson proved to be very difficult to deal with in those teenage years that he went through. A lot because of the loyalty bind that he was in, and a lot because I think he was a naturally anxious kid, and he was always popular, and he was good looking, and he was athletic, and he had like all this. He had a lot of pressure on him. It was like the golden child kind of stuff. So he was difficult, but he was difficult to everybody across the board. I wasn't, singled out. I think he was challenging, and but not in any terrible way. And nothing like, drugs and, breaking the law or anything, just being a difficult teenager. So I was very annoyed, of course, because it's not fun to have a surly teenager around. Never is. I don't think even parents will tell you that that's any fun. It's
Of
certainly not
course
fun as a
not.
step parent. It really
That's
sucks as a step parent because I'm thinking, really, you know what? I had so many other things to do this weekend besides drive up to Rhode Island and watch your 12-year-old basketball game. Like, that's not so fun. And yeah, it wasn't. But, it would be my husband's weekend. So what could you do? I wasn't going to leave him alone and, try to make a connection, try to be nice. But it was kind of a thankless job for a while there, I have to say. Is like many years of frustration. And I thought about how I was a little bit the same way when I was that teenage kid. So, and my stepfather he stayed who he was. He stayed strong, and he never wavered. It was like the rules were the rules. Here's my boundaries. I don't change those things. Um, and I just tried to stay true to that. So sometimes it was hard because my husband and his ex-wife are very loose. Like, there was not ever consequences for bad behavior or anything like that. Like, I never saw Lucas or Kylie ever get punished ever. And I would have done that. But you know what? I'm not the parent, so it's not up to me.
So you recognize that because again, I've had experts on the show who do really advise and talk about the fact that yeah, it's not the step parent shouldn't be the one doing the discipline as much as they're the ones dying for the boundaries.
Definitely.
It should be the bio parents because it just creates more resentment or problems
Yeah.
if the step parent's trying to step in and do it. Did when you were growing up, did your stepfather discipline you at all, or was it always your mother? Or were you perfect?
It was his rules for sure. They were a very like old fashioned couple that way. And he made the money, he had the job, it was his rules, it was his house, whatever. And my mom was like much more of a homemaker and, respect him. And I think it was good though, because we were a lot. I mean, we were a lot of people and a lot of girls. I mean, I look back and I think, God, they had like 4 teenage girls at one point. That's can't be any fun.
Well, did you resent him for making the rules, or was that just the way it was?
It was the way it was, and of course, when you're a teenager and you're told that you can't go to something or you aren't allowed to do something, then you always hate your parents and especially your step parents. So, I mean, that's just the course of life. And raising kids, I can't. It's just not very easy. I think it's a one of the hardest things to do and one of the really lucky and hard things to do well.
Right. There's a lot of, reward, but
Yeah.
getting to that place can be really difficult, and
Yeah.
I so y I'm just thinking and visualizing you going to this basketball game and
Uh,
just having to keep your mouth shut, like, did you do that? Did you just go
no, I
along
was
with
the
it and
stepmom screaming in the stands watching the whole game. My husband was reading the newspaper. He was like, "It's so boring." I'm like, "I know, but we're here to watch. Let's act excited." And John's like, It's like, yeah. And now the best part is the many years later in life that my stepson is now a parent to his own 3 children and has a, wonderful wife and a wonderful life and everything, and now at his, 38 years old, is the first one to say to me, "I can't believe that you went to those things." He goes, "I'm already dreading some of that stuff is like endless, amount of responsibility and parent things and all, plays with Kylie and his sports and all that." And it's really actually like all kind of deadly, but it's what you do. But it's really extra to do it when you're not the parent. And Lucas definitely appreciates that now as he's an adult with his own kids. And it's nice to be appreciated even if it's many years later.
That's really great wisdom, and oh my gosh, I keep bumping into my own microphone. I think that that payoff, and I know it takes many years to go from a teenage kid to there being a parent, but having him look back and appreciate you and know you were there says so much
Mhm.
about you and how you handled things. And I think you said something to me when we talked before the interview about how you're not a step parent. I mean, you're not in the parenting phase forever. That's a short period of time. And as hard as it is, there's so much beyond that if you can get through
Totally.
that. And what
Big
can you talk
payoff.
about that a little bit more,
Yeah.
your philosophy on that?
Thanks. I do feel like I have a lot of friends who date and then they meet a guy and he's got kids and they're like in the thick of, maybe going through a divorce or teenagers acting badly or, being disrespectful and all the normal stuff in day to day. And it always feels when you're in that moment that that moment is going to last forever. It's like, "Ugh, I can't do this forever." I mean, really, I love this guy and he's great, but oh my God, I don't want all these 14-year olds at my house eating pizza and, smelling and whatever, their dirty socks everywhere. So you do feel like it's going to last forever and it goes really fast. I mean, life is just like flies by. And then all of a sudden one day you go, wow, they have their own kids and their own life. And now I can go leave my socks on their floor when I visit. And it's a little revenge. No, I would never. I would never. But
I think
yeah,
you should.
there's an end to it. I mean, you hope there's an end to it. That means that they're having a healthy, productive life, that they have grown up and they've moved on. And that's what everybody wants for their kids. And, I'm very fortunate and both of my stepchildren are married and have children and own homes and, are happy. So everybody's doing really well. And that's the most you can ask for anyone, but especially so our family and people that we care about the most.
Right. Well, you did an excellent job. The fact that that's the outcome, you
I
did a
can't
good
take
job
any
at your
credit. They're
job.
great kids and I was the innocent bystander for most of it. That's for sure.
Doesn't sound like you were just a bystander at all. One of the other things that I took note of that you said the other day was you need to start with goodwill when kids are involved. I really liked that little statement. What can you expand on that thought?
Yeah, I think sometimes when people are getting divorced or they are divorced and there's bad blood between, your husband and his ex-wife, for instance, I think staying out of that is imperative. I think getting pulled, that's a problem that they created. Unless that you are the reason that they're getting divorced. That's a problem that happened between them and it's not really for you to get involved. And I think people spend too much time talking about dwelling on this stuff and, oh, my ex-husband, he's crazy. And my ex-wife is, you know, trying to take advantage. Well, everybody's crazy sometimes and everybody tries to take advantage sometimes and everybody does the best they can most of the time. So I think you have to have goodwill. You have to go into a relationship and think, okay, so if I really want this to work, I want him to be nice to my family. That's going to include my parents when they're older, to my siblings, it's to me when I'm sick. I mean, you have to set kind of a standard of goodwill. And that includes being nice to the parent of your stepkids. Like, what purpose is it going to serve to be mean to a woman who's, gotten divorced and is like got primary custody of two kids? You know, don't you can't be mean to people like that. It's like it's a hard time for everybody to go through. Everybody. It's not just hard for the kids. It's hard for the ex-wife. It's hard for the guy you're dating. It's hard for um all the relatives, for grandparents and everybody. So I think you have to see that and try to do the best you can with your own good intentions.
Excellent. Okay, I'm switching gears for a second because your husband does something kinda interesting, and I think
Well, he did. He's retired now, but he did.
you have a knack for interesting partners, and I know something, but I'm not gonna go into all that, but I do know your husband, has a really interesting career, and I'd love to talk about that just a little bit for the audience. What
Oh, yes. So
can
he's
you okay, it has to do with
he's
Pokemon,
retired
right?
now. So we should start with that he is retired.
Okay, okay. Can you talk about
Yeah.
Pokemon?
Yeah, John, my husband wrote all the music for Pokemon. So he's was a jingle writer and a songwriter and a singer, a studio singer for commercials and jingles, and ran the advertising department, the music department, sorry, at Gray Advertising for 18 years. So he's been in the music business on the creative side. And anyway, we call our house the house that Pokemon built. So yeah, he yeah, he lucked into a wonderful situation. He also was involved for many years in another thing called Kids Bop. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that's also been
Yeah.
a very successful kids thing. So yeah, that's he's a creative person. He's a very easygoing, laid back, easy to get along with guy. Like I said, the person who never said a mean thing about his ex-wife ever. So nice.
How fun to be involved in that, especially for your kids. They must have loved it. My kids were crazy over Pokemon,
I
and,
can't believe still people still care about Pokemon so much.
they do, but my kids, when they were younger, I mean, I still have my son's Pokemon card collection that I
Oh, you're
think
so
maybe worth
rich.
something at some point. I hung on to it for him. So, but how
Got
cool.
to catch them all.
Yeah. You said you're in
Pokemon.
the Pokemon room behind you, so I love that too.
I know. I've got a lot of his albums and things like that. I don't know. Everything is, he's not as organized as me. I'm in his office. It looks
The
okay.
Pokemon
I'll
office.
get busy. It's the Pokemon office. It's all his albums and music and turntables and stuff like that in here. So yeah, he's retired, but he's always working on projects and music and trying to do new and interesting things and stay engaged. He's not like the retired stay-at-home type. He's very active.
Well, he's creative for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of our interview, but I have a few different questions still for you. One being, now that your stepkids are grown, looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's always like knowing if you knew then what you knew now. And
Yeah.
if I had known then that there would actually be an end to Lucas's horrible behavior, I would have been like so much more easygoing. But I was like, this is how he's going to be forever. I just know it when he was a toxic teen. And yeah, I would have been like, I would have had less fights. That was the only time my husband and I have ever fought is about Lucas. So that's interesting to look back, and I would consider Lucas, my stepson, one of the people that I'm very close to him. I talk to him. I mean, he and his wife and kids live in our guest house in the summertime here for, as long as they can possibly stay every year. I love her. He and I are close. He's somebody that in an emergency I would call. And I really, I find I think he's just a wise and wonderful person. And if you had told me that I would have said that when he was 15, I would have said you were out of your mind. I've been like, no, there is no way. I feel bad because put a lot of, they always say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and he always was the squeaky wheel when he was a kid, and his sister never was and still never is. She's like been the easiest human being to be around, to know, to get to know, to love. The little girl that was, always left her room neater than when she found it, always
Wow.
offered to help, always was like polite and kind and thoughtful, always from like day one. Like
That's
she
unusual.
is an excellent person, so,
Mm.
yeah, and always was. Lucas is an excellent person, but he wasn't, like, always that excellent as a teenager, but now he's made up for all that, in spades. He's awesome kid.
Well, he sounds normal, so,
Yes,
um,
I think so too. I
that's
know.
pretty
My
normal.
stepdaughter is like, I always was wondering, like, how are you like this? I was always waiting for the shoe to drop when she would come for visits and go on vacations and stuff, and she was just always nice.
That's great. Well, do you have any other pearls of wisdom you might leave for any other stepmothers who are working so hard to have positive relationships too? Just any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think important to stepmother advice. I would say that that mother of the children, do whatever you can to be nice to her and be friends with her. Whatever. Eat crow, go out of your way, never say anything mean about them. Just don't do that, because that's the key to your happiness. The mother of the children, they hold the keys to your happiness, because those kids, if they hear all from Monday to Friday, what a horrible person you are. They're going to come to your house on Friday after school and be horrible to you. And you know what? If you give no opportunity for that to be the case, go out of your way for people. You know what? Call that person on Mother's Day and say Happy Mother's Day, because she is the mother. And just make the extra effort, and don't be mean, and don't fall into the whole thing between like the divorce and what's going on between those people. It's not your business.
That is amazing advice, Debbie. That
Oh,
that's the first time somebody has said that on this show, and, um, I think it's incredibly great advice. I hadn't even thought of something like that. It's just so simple and plain and hard to do, but it
hard. It
makes
wasn't always
so much
easy. We're all
sense.
born, we're girls, we're jealous, we're competitive. I'm like, oh, she was married to him all these years, and she's beautiful, and she's nice, and she's a great mom. And it's like, there's always uncomfortable feelings, but get past the uncomfortable feelings and make the best effort. You know what I mean? Like, show up at the soccer game that we're all gonna be at, and talk to her, talk to her friends, be nice. Don't make enemies where you don't need enemies. Life is way too short.
That's incredible advice, and I hope a lot of people hear that and take that away from this particular episode. I love it. Thank
Oh.
you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Boy, who knew? I have something to say. I didn't
You had a
never
lot of
thought
good
about
things to
any.
say.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I really
Yeah,
have enjoyed talking about it. It's like revisiting a big part of your life, and you'd see a different perspective, when you're older. And now I'm a, grandparent of almost 6 kids.
wow.
And, it just puts a different lens on things. And we all get older and we get wiser. And I think anything that we can pass on to other people going through the same thing we went to that's helpful
Right.
is great. Like, share information and share kindness.
Yeah. Share kindness. That is just the most important thing there is, no matter what we're talking about, what subject it is. Share kindness, be kind. So, do you have anything else coming up you're excited about?
Oh, just travels and summer in the Hamptons, and the kids coming. They're coming on Sunday. Lucas is coming with his 2 toddler boys and his newborn and their dog and their nanny and his wife. And we very much look forward to those visits. It's like going to be great.
That sounds
Really
great. Well,
great.
enjoy the rest of your summer, and thank you again for being on the show. I'm so grateful
Thanks, Robin.
Susie introduced us.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
And maybe I'll see you in person one of these days soon.
I hope so too. All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Robin.
you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.